It takes people who are educated, people who are enlightened to be able to appreciate what they need to fight for.
It was Nkrumah's vision for education.
The vision of Nkrumah was to bring these four territories that have come together to form Ghana.
Right.
Now, to do so, you wanted to use education to affect the psyche of the person. That when I go to school, I don't come out as Eric the Ashanti, Eric the Dangbi,
Right.
Eric the Fanti. You come out of school as Eric the Ghanaian. Cape Coast is known as the center of education. And that was because a lot of the Fantis had access to education early. At a time when some of the other compatriots were interested in trading and all the other things that productive. Ghana National College was started in July 1948, but it was called Ghana National College.
When there was no even
Exactly,
Ghana.
there was no Ghana. When I went to Form 1, we were supposed to choose between Hausa, Ezema, Fanti, Ewe, Ga, Ashanti. Today, there's absolutely nothing like that.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode on Beyond the Surface podcast. My name is Enoch and I am your host. Today in history class, we're going to talk about the history of the Ghanaian educational system. I guess is not a stranger here. In our last episode, we spoke about the history of Ghana. If you are yet to watch it, please be sure to check our YouTube page. There are all the videos there, the history of Ghana, the whole issue about Kotoka, the naming of our airport after Kotoka. If you've not watched all of that, please be sure to go to our YouTube page and watch all of that. But today, he's going to talk about the history of Ghanaian's educational system from independence, from Nkrumah's vision for this country so far as education is concerned. And so, welcome to history class. And if you've not subscribed, please be sure to subscribe. Let us know where you're watching us from and put in your comment section. Our guest today is in the person of Mr. Atta Suno. And for those who are seeing him for the first time, he's an author. He's an engineer by profession, but also the author of Kwame Nkrumah. He has a book entitled Kwame Nkrumah. Be sure to go and watch it. We'll put the numbers on the screen so that you get this book and you read it. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming again on the show.
Welcome.
Last time was an exciting one, and we had a lot of feedbacks from people about the history. I mean, it was an eye opener for a lot of people.
Okay.
You know, there are certain things we didn't know. So, thank you so much for making the time today again.
Thank God.
Now, we want to talk about the history of Ghana's educational system. Before we get into it, why do you think this is an important subject we need to look at?
It takes people who are educated, people who are enlightened to be able to appreciate what they need to fight for,
Right.
what is rightly theirs, and then they strive to lay claim of it.
Right.
And so the level of education that came into the Gold Coast that caused the people to begin to agitate for what they believed was theirs.
Right.
If you go back into history, Aborigines' rights protection and all of those, it's all because the people got themselves educated and realized that no, certain things had gone wrong and they needed to fight for it.
All
So
right.
education is the bedrock for our independence struggle.
All right. Fantastic. Now let's get into it. 1957 independence.
Yes.
Take us through it. What was Nkrumah's vision for education?
Nkrumah's vision for education goes back beyond, date precedes 1957. In 1948, there were two agitations in Accra,
Okay.
unrelated, but they led to the same thing.
Okay.
The Osu Alata Manche, New Kwabnaboni, thought that prices of goods, essential goods, were rising too quickly, and so gathered people, and then they decided to demonstrate on that day, 28th February 1948. That same day, ex-servicemen who had gone to fight for the British Army from the Gold Coast had decided to demonstrate.
Okay.
The two demonstrations took place concurrently. Both of them degenerated. The colonial government arrested supposedly the political leaders who we call the Bixes. And then, the events that followed. Now, when those demonstrations happened in Accra, young people who were in secondary schools at the time across the country decided that they would do some solidarity
Okay.
demonstrations. Essentially, these were people in Ifansipim, Adisado, and St. Augustine's College. Essentially, some attempted to do so from Achimota, but it didn't happen. So these people demonstrated, and in fact, the bulk of them came from St. Augustine's College, and they had a demonstration. The colonial government stepped in, closed down all the schools, sacked all the teachers involved, sacked all the students involved.
Right.
And those who were in final year then were put together. In fact, arrangements were, overtures were made to Kwame Nkrumah,
Okay.
then the leader of government business, had it. And so he quickly said that they should start a school for them.
Okay.
So 3 of the teachers who were sacked from St. Augustine's, 1 teacher sacked from Efansipim, Colonel Sakifiu. The 3 from Ogasco were Nelson, Mensa Kane, and then there was a 3rd one. So the 4 teachers started a school for the dismissed students, largely final year students. And that school is what we call Ghana National College in Cape Coast.
Right.
So that tells you the passion Nkrumah had for education,
Okay.
how he wanted the Ghanaian to be educated so that they could prepare for the takeoff of the country Ghana. Now, when it comes to the vision of Kwame Nkrumah for education, I said the last time that Ghana was not what it was at the time.
Yeah.
We had the Gold Coast colony, we had the Ashanti, we had the Northern Territory, and then we had the Transvolta Togoland. And so the vision of Nkrumah was to bring these 4 territories that are come together to form Ghana into one monolithic country.
Right.
Now, to do so, you wanted to use education to affect the psyche of the person. That when I go to school, I don't come out as Eric, the Ashanti, Eric, the Dangbi,
Right.
Eric, the Fanti. You come out of school as Eric, the Ghanaian.
Mm-hmm.
And so the curriculum of the educational curriculum was tailored towards achieving that, and everything else was tailored towards that thing he called African personality, ensuring that you projected that personality African, so that if you're an African, you're a Ghanaian, you don't feel inferior. Everything that the white man can do, the European can do, you can also do same and probably even do better. You are a Ghanaian, you are not an Ashanti, you are not an Nzima, you are not whatever, you are a Ghanaian. And so these were the things that fed into the kind of vision Nkrumah had for education in our country.
Wow. So it was more or less, I mean, like you're saying, before Gold Coast, we had different colony. It was more or less he trying to put that ideology
Yeah.
that we are one.
Yeah.
You're an African.
Yes.
Whatever the white man can do, you can even
can
do
do same,
better.
yeah.
Right. Now, talking about Ghana National and St. Augustine, now Cape Coast is normally seen as the bedrock for education
Yeah.
here in this country. Take us through the history and the journey of education in Cape Coast.
Cape Coast has they call it some say the citadel, some say the cradle. It used to be called the cradle, as in where it started.
Yeah.
But the Achims will tell you that it didn't really start from Cape Coast, and that education started from the Achim land. But essentially, Cape Coast is known as the center of education.
Right.
And that was because a lot of the Fantis had access to education early. At a time when some of the other compatriots were interested in trading and all the other things that productive ventures, the Fantis, probably because they had access to, the forts are largely in the central region.
Yeah.
All the forts, all the castles, majority of them are in central region. So they seem to have had contact with the white man early. Now, if you know, the indigenous ladies that the white men slept with and got pregnant were isolated.
Okay.
And they were taken like concubines, treated like that. They gave birth, and the children were educated, mostly in the castles. And then when they grew up and they were doing well, they were sent abroad.
Okay.
And so by that means, education started getting into call it the Fanti land, or those areas. And it didn't take too long. We had a lot of Fantis who had not just gone to senior school. Those days when they say you go to school, it's essentially the primary school. When they say senior school, it's the middle school.
Okay.
What today we'll call GHS, maybe. So you go to senior school, and then that was it. But then these people started aspiring for college, which is undergraduate, aspiring for postgraduate degrees and all of those. So you have names of people like Agri, you have Ekan Ferguson. These were all very educated, Fanti elite people. And as they were increasing, they were beginning to affect the mindset of their compatriots. And so the Fantis were aspiring more and more for education. It is no wonder that, for example, Paboni, as he's called, goes and buys a land and says, let's start a school for the Fantis, Infantifo School, which is in Fansipem.
Fantipem.
Started in 1876. It's the oldest school offering secondary education in the country, no doubt. Whichever school you attended, that's the fact. And then, as Infansipem started, everybody was going there. But you see, the missions were not starting schools essentially because they loved to educate people for the fun of it. No.
Okay.
Education was supposed to be a missionary activity,
Right.
just as it was supposed to upgrade the conscience of the people. Okay. So if you go to Infansipem, then you are likely to come out probably becoming a Methodist, possibly.
Okay.
And so some people who were there were not too excited. Along the line, the Anglican Church, the Cape Coast Fanti area was more of the Methodists and the Anglicans
Yeah.
before the Catholics came in. And so they thought that it was a bit of a threat to the church. So gradually, they also started their school, St. Nicholas, which now became Adesado in 1910. And then the Catholics also thought that no, we needed to have our own. And so they also started 1930. And then along the line, the Presbys also thought that they needed to establish their roots properly where they were in the East. So they started two schools. You have the Presbyterian, which now PTC, Presbyterian Training College. And then you have what now is Presec, which started in the Krobo area. So all the churches were trying to use education to further the work of missionary activity and also to improve the conscientization of the ordinary person.
Fantastic. Now let's look at Ghana National College.
Okay.
That we know was formed by Nkrumah himself.
Yes.
What problem
They
was he
call it
trying?
Osagyefus own school.
Right. what was he trying to solve by? I mean, we know all these other missionary school was for missionary purposes. What was that difference between Ghana National at the time, funded by Nkrumah, and the other missionary schools?
Initially, the essence of starting Ghana College was to offer a space for those dismissed students to be able to register for their exam, the Cambridge examination, and move on with their lives. That was the initial objective. But once they did it and it worked, the next thing was, wow, why don't we use this as a model school of what we want for Ghana?
Right.
Mind you, Ghana National College was started in July 1948, but it was called Ghana National College when Ghana was not even
When there was no even
exactly
Ghana.
there was no
Right.
Ghana. So it was a way of let's make it look like what we want to see in Ghana.
Right.
And so that was the first of the model schools. Eventually, they called them the Ghana Education Trust Schools. The others are, for example, Suedro Secondary School, Windeba Secondary School, Labone Secondary School, Accra Girls, Ghana School, Hekoforidia. There are several of them. When you go there, the only thing that you know is one of those Nkrumah schools is the administration block. All the administration blocks are the same. Once you see a school that has the assembly block, as an administration block looking like Ghana National College, it's one of those Osagyefus own schools. And they ended up offering a certain one that there was nothing like denominationalism or the interdenominational. There was nothing. These were typically secular schools, which Kwame Nkrumah wanted to. And that's what he also tried to when he tried to sign the partnership with the churches, try to drop the religiosity in those schools and make it more Ghanaian, make it more secular, so that everybody will feel at home going there for their education.
Right. So if we get it, Ghana National, funded by Nkrumah, was funded with the ideology that want it to sort of
Be a model secondary
for how education should be in the country. Now, looking over the years, do you think that has been achieved?
Ghana National College. Yes, to a large extent, yes. I mean, to the fact that it has become an example for several. There are more than 60 of those model schools across the country. So that alone shows that Ghana National was able to set the pace. But as to whether we're able to achieve what Nkrumah wanted for education in the country is another thing altogether.
We'll come to.
That I don't think we fully got there. I'll give you an example. I have spoken with people who attended my college, and they tell you that in the 40s and the 50s, when you went to the school, you would have to join what they call a cultural troupe.
Okay.
And you have to join a cultural troupe which is different from the group you hail from. So if
Okay.
you're a Fanti, you must join a cultural troupe different from the Fanti group.
Maybe a word
Something. If you had to learn a language beyond your own language.
Okay.
And most of the time, the cultural group and the language were supposed to be different.
Right.
So I belong to this. I'm learning culture of this one. I'm learning language of the other one. So you complete the school with at least good perspectives of 3 different tribal groups in the country. It doesn't happen now. Even when I went to school, which is not too far back, at least the cultural troop system was there. The languages were there. When I went to Form 1, we were supposed to choose between Hausa, Nzema, Fanti, Ewe, Ga, Asante. Today, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing like that. So if you say you are building the Ghanaian personality, how do you do so? How do you do so?
That's a good one.
Now, all of us have our children learning to speak English. None of our children are speaking even our own primary language.
Yeah.
So what Ghana are we building?
Yeah. And talking about our primary language, I mean, there have been debates on which is our primary language. Some say it's Chi, some say it's Gan. What do you think? That's just by
I don't know where that primary language thing came from. Because if I'm a Dangbi, my primary language is Dangbi. Yeah. If I'm an Asante, my primary language is Asante. Question is, which of the languages is more popular, such that we can all adopt? Or which one is easier for people to learn? And it's easier because it's predominant.
Yeah.
And so if you ask me, I'll say, well, even the Northerners speak Chi, passably. The Ewe speaks Chi, passably. I'm not an Akan person, but I believe that it will be easier to adopt a language like the Chi as a primary language for us. But you see, we have issues of pride. And so that the Ga may not agree.
Yeah.
The Ewe may not agree. So let's move on.
Yeah.
But if we want to be very pragmatic, obviously Chi should be our primary language. Unless we want to create a language, which I don't know.
Yeah. Now let's look at the evolution of the educational system.
Yes.
From the O levels, it got to the GHS, SHS system.
It didn't start with O level actually.
Okay, take us through that journey. I want to know the evolution of the education to when it got to the GHS, SHS period.
Okay, so at the time secondary education started, I said we had the primary education, then senior school came, which became middle school.
Yeah.
So when you finish primary school, there was no exam. Then you move to senior school, which is the middle school. Then you write something they call middle school leaving certificate. At the point, they nicknamed the Bootio certificate. Bootio was the Minister of Education for Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah. So they named the Bootio certificate. And then secondary education came in. But because we're under the colonial era, they were writing Cambridge, which was what the British were doing. So you did Cambridge. When you are done with Cambridge, essentially you are done with education because there wasn't university. If you want to do university, probably you have to go to Sierra Leone and do Forabe or go to UK. Of course, we had UK visas automatically. We're all British. So you just take a boat or ship and then you're out. Then we had the likes of training colleges came in. So some will go to training college, become teachers. It was a natural thing because that was the next higher certificate. Yeah. Then Achimota came. Achimota was also doing training college, but it was affiliated to Forabe. And then University of Ghana comes. And then gradually, university education was now in the country. Yeah. Okay. So you do Cambridge, which is a secondary thing. Now with Cambridge, now comes common entrance. So before you go to secondary school, you write the common entrance, then you go to secondary school. Okay. If you were not fortunate enough to be able to write common entrance, then you go to middle school. I think you do 2 years or so. Then you write the middle school leaving certificate. Then you go to secondary school and join Form 3 and then complete with them with the O level. Then you write what they call the senior school certificate, which later became sixth form. Sixth form was introduced around 58 or thereabout. So sixth form actually started as pre-university. So a few schools were doing it. First Spring was doing for arts. Augustine's was doing for arts and science. Achimota was doing for arts and science. KNUST was then a college doing only for science.
Right.
So if you want to do sixth form, you go to any of these schools. Then it expanded, and then almost every school was doing sixth form. So you do sixth form, and then you go to university. That was what pertained from the 60s all the way till about the 70s.
Okay.
Then the government thought that our education was too grammar.
Mm-hmm.
When they say grammar, it means that it was too theoretical,
Yeah.
too
not
academic.
practical.
And so let's start something that was a bit more practical. So they started experimental junior high schools or junior secondary schools. That was a Champon's era.
Okay.
So those days, you go to some region, you see one. You go to a town, you see one. And then they go and then they join secondary school, midstream if they wanted. If they didn't, they continued. And then in the 80s, the government of Jerry Rawlings thought that they needed to instill it.
Okay.
So in 1988, I think they started the junior secondary school program.
Yeah.
And said that everybody should go to junior secondary school, and then they call it something psychomotor skills. Get to use your hands for something. So they have something like life skills, how to do what they call so how to sew and how to knit and all of those things. And then they had the vocational skills, which was the home economics and all of those. Then they had technical skills and technical drawing. These were good, but the problem was that the teachers had not been prepared enough. Because I remember I did my sixth form national service in a school in Ungwa.
Okay.
When I went there, they had the two tools boxes in the headmaster's office. I asked for the key. It took me 1 month to get the key because they didn't know where to find the key.
Right.
When they opened, they thought the tools were in their cases, not opened ever.
Right.
And yet they had been practicing the JHS system for probably about 8 years
Right.
at the time. So these were the challenges. People would go to school, they have passed technical drawing, passed technical skills, passed home economics, life skills, vocational skills, and yet they knew nothing. And then we had a senior secondary school program, which we were running. Now the senior secondary school program was supposed to be 3 years. This one was supposed to be 3 years. Now one reason for bringing this was that we were spending too much time in school. So you do 5 years in secondary school, do 2 years in sixth form. That's 7 years in one school. Then you do national service, then you go to university and do 4 years. So let's reduce it. So now if you do 6 years in primary school, you do 3 years in JHS,
And 3
then you
years.
do 3 years in SHS, then you go to university. All that we did was to reduce it by 1 year. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Because they only reduced the university education by 1 year from 4 to 3. And then eventually it went back to 4 anyway. So we reduced the system by 1 year. And supposedly now people are more hands-on. Whether it's true or not, only posterity can tell. So that's the system we have run till now. The whole of the Cambridge was global.
Right.
So you could live here and go to UK, go to US. I didn't need SAT, you didn't need TOEFL, you didn't need GRE and all of those things. When I was in secondary school, all you needed was to do SAT. TOEFL was out because it was acknowledged that once you did O level, A level, it was acceptable in UK and US. So you didn't need to, you just needed to do SAT and you were good to go. But today you have to do all of those things because they don't even believe the grades that we are getting from the WASI that we are writing. I hear we are going to start writing the international WASI from next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will take us back into the community of nations when it comes to exams.
All right. Now, if we are being brutally honest, do you think the current Ghanaian educational system, do you think is producing thinkers or just people to pass exams?
I'll go for the latter. we are educating people for the book knowledge. I can support it with everything I know. You see, and this is not because I did O level, no, but I come from that background. When you went to Form 1, we did 18 subjects.
Okay.
18. 6 were languages. We did German, we did French, we did Latin, we did Greek, we did English. That's local language. Beyond that, we did so many things. When you get to Form 3, after you have navigated all these, call it non-far areas, then you write an exam, and at that point, you decide whether you want to be a science student, an art student, or a business student. And at that point, what you are choosing is informed.
Mm.
Then you go to O level with that. Then you do sixth form, go to university. Today, people in JHS 3 are supposed to fill forms and indicate whether they will be business student, art student, or science student.
Yeah.
And I know many people. My daughter is in Form 3, writing this year. There are many people who select, go to the secondary school, and they want to switch after Form 1, after Form 2. But the system does not allow that. So you are forced to just go along and hope that some twist of fate will enable you to change, maybe when you're going to university or after your undergrad or something. And so I think that the system does not help our students enough. At the time they are selecting their courses for the future, they are not properly informed to be able to do, to have informed positions. That's number one. Number two, you look at people who have graduated from university. And I'm saying so because I have engaged some in the place where I work. And sometimes you have somebody, he's gotten a very good class, and the things he or she can do in the office, you begin to question whether really
He got the class.
he actually did the degree he's supposed to have done. And so I think that there is something that is not right. I'm not able to put a handle on it. Whether it is the content of the secondary school education, whether it is the content of the university education, or whether it is the missing national service. Because those days, when you finish sixth form, you do national service 1 year. And most of the time, you go and teach. The university people, when they finish, they go to offices. But the sixth formers, they are sent to teach in JHS and things.
Okay.
And even though it's just 9 months, when you go out there and you work away from home, even if you are home, every day you go to work and come. At the end of the month, you are giving some pottery, something as another one.
Yeah.
But now money is coming through your pocket. You are deciding how you spend money. It has a way of transforming you from that small boy into a big adult now. The current system, you do JHS in one school, then you do primary school in one school, then you wear the same uniform to do JHS. The mind does not change.
Right.
From class 6 to class 1, you are same. Up to class 3, you are the same. I have a son who is in Form 3. He is the same as when he was in class 6. Because they are the same environment.
Right.
Nothing has changed. But in my time, I would have moved from class 6 to Form 1. I went to Form 1 when I was 11 and a half. And you will change because you are in a different school, seeing people who are like your fathers, and you have to survive. So by the time you finish Form 5, you would have grown automatically, matured. The system today does not create those enabling environments for people to grow. So I think that our children are not growing as fast as they need to grow, which was the case previously. And we need to have a way of dealing with some of these things.
Now, if you had to recommend a reform in our educational system, what would that be?
We have done more than 7 reforms since the 70s. Jobo Commission, Anamwa Mensa, we've done several. And all of them come with reports, and we are never able to fully do. I think that the problem is social than curriculum. That's what I think. Like I'm talking about moving the people from one level, transcending them from one level to another so that they mature. The human being is meant to grow, to mature. But if you are always kept at the same level, no matter what information is fed to you, you still remain where you are. And I think those are the things we need to deal with. Find a way of, you see, previously we used to do internships. You finish one level, you go and work for 1 month and things. Today, people are struggling to get internships. You genuinely want internship, nobody will take you. So you are just doing academic work. You don't grow. So we need to deliberately create those systems where when people vacate, long vacation, that is even if there's a long vacation, you can spend your 2-3 months long vacation to go and do internship. Even if you are not being paid, just go and work for how to operate photocopy machine, how to type a letter, how to generate documents, how to scan documents. Just be around, enjoying the office environment. That helps you to grow, mature to a certain level. You go back to school. The next semester, at the end of the year, you go and do a similar thing. By the time you are done with your undergraduate, you would have graduated.
Right.
You will not just be wearing academic gown and a square cap, but you'd have actually graduated from one level of life to another.
Yeah. Now, finally, on a lighter note, we saw these debates on social media where the educational minister spoke about the hair of the student.
Yes.
In fact, the Rastafarian that had an issue in Achimota.
Yes.
We recently heard what the great things he's doing outside the country.
Yeah.
That presupposes that the hair or the looks doesn't really determine what the
how
input
far
the
you can
person-
go or what you
exactly.
can do with your life.
What are your comments on this?
You said on a lighter note. For me, it's not a lighter note matter. The truth of the matter is that, you see, when you go to school at a certain age, and it is not for nothing that when you go to university, they allow you freedom of whatever because you are at a certain level of life. I think that when you go to a school like a secondary school, you are underaged, and a parent has offloaded his responsibility of care to the school. And it is not for nothing that every school has rules. That in this school, this is how we operate. This is how we live our lives. If we want a situation where people will come and say, well, for me, this is how this is what I believe. Therefore, this is what I want to bring out in terms of demonstrate. We'll have a situation where somebody will tell you that, me, I don't believe in wearing shoe, so I want to walk barefooted. In my house, we are from the traditional priest home. We don't wear shoes. At a point, if I'm a school head, which one will I believe and which one will I think is not the truth? So I sympathize with the young people. I also sympathize with school managers. I put myself in the school manager's role. That if I were a school head, how do I manage all this mix of people who are trying to exhibit? I think the best way is that I take my word to school. Let me subject the word to the systems of the school. If I don't want what the school does, let me look for a school that accepts the way I would want my children to grow and take my children there. It's as simple as that. And that also fits into what is happening in the mission schools. It's all the same thing. We all subscribe to schools before we select. And once you select, you need to subject yourself to the norms, practices, and the beliefs of those schools. And we'll be fine.
Thank you. That's great. That's a great submission. Thank you, sir, for your time on this podcast. I'm sure this is going to go a long way to help all of us out there. I mean, I've learned a lot about the history of the educational system. So thank you again for your time with us.
Welcome.
Viewers, it has been another moment with our historian. We'll come back again. A history student, now a historian. We'll come back again with another episode on our history class. My name is Enoch, and I am your host. Thank you.